There's a pattern the sharpest minds in history figured out early, and most people never learn. When someone consistently undermines your work, questions your judgment, or downplays your wins, they're not being honest. They're being threatened. And here's what nobody tells you: that threat response. It's the most accurate performance metric you'll ever get. Because mediocrity never scares anyone. Only real momentum does. And that changes everything about how you play the game. Why military strategists' new attacks reveal your true value. There's a tactical principle that every intelligence operative learns on day one. If nobody's watching you, you're irrelevant. The moment surveillance begins, you've entered the arena. Napoleon Bonaparte didn't just study battlefields, he studied the psychology of competition. He understood that enemy movements always reveal two things: where you're strong and where they're weak. When opponents dedicate resources to blocking your advance, they're confirming your trajectory matters. Ignoring this signal is strategic blindness. Ancient Chinese military doctrine, particularly in the 36 stratagems, emphasizes reading opponent behavior as intelligence data. One stratagem explicitly states, when the enemy attacks your reputation instead of your position, they've already conceded the battle. This wasn't philosophical, it was operational. Reputation attacks are cheaper than direct confrontation. When someone can't beat your results, they'll try to contaminate your credibility. And most people fall for it because they mistake psychological warfare for genuine feedback. Here's how this manifests in modern high-performance environments. You deliver exceptional quarterly results. Instead of acknowledgement, you get, "Must be nice to have those resources," or "See if it's sustainable." These aren't casual observations, they're calculated diminishments designed to inject doubt into your mind and others' perceptions. Corporate sabotage rarely looks like obvious backstabbing. It looks like strategic ambiguity, like concern wrapped in skepticism. And the people deploying it know exactly what they're doing, even if they'd never admit it. The Stoics called this the obstacle revealing the path. Marcus Aurelius wrote extensively about using opposition as diagnostic information. When someone actively works against your success, they're involuntarily teaching you three critical things: where your growth threatens existing hierarchies, which insecurities drive competitive behavior, and who will become a problem as you scale. This isn't paranoia, it's pattern recognition. And in high-stakes environments, pattern recognition is survival. Because while you're busy being nice and assuming good intentions, others are playing chess. And there's several moves ahead. But here's the part that separates winners from everyone else. Knowing WHO attacks and why completely changes your strategy. What happens when your excellence exposes others' mediocrity? Let's talk about something uncomfortable. Your achievements make other people confront their own choices. And most humans would rather sabotage you than face that mirror. This isn't speculation, it's documented behavioral psychology. Research on social comparison shows that people automatically measure themselves against those in their proximity. When that comparison lands unfavorably, three responses emerge: improve themselves, accept reality, or tear down the comparison target. Guess which happens most often? Here's a historical case study that proves the point. When the Wright brothers successfully flew at Kitty Hawk, the scientific establishment didn't celebrate, they attacked. Prominent scientists claimed it was impossible, even after photographic evidence. Why? Because the Wright brothers were bicycle mechanics, not credentialed academics. Their success invalidated years of expert theories and exposed that formal training hadn't produced results. The attacks weren't about the facts, they were about protecting fragile professional identities. Sound familiar? This dynamic plays out daily in every competitive field. A junior analyst proposes a strategy that outperforms senior leadership's approach. Instead of adoption, the response is, "Interesting, but you don't understand the complexity," or "We tried that years ago." Translation: your success implies our failure, and we can't allow that narrative. The real issue isn't your idea, it's what accepting your idea says about their judgment. So they'll manufacture reasons to dismiss you while framing it as wisdom and experience. What makes this particularly insidious is the language of concern. People who feel threatened rarely attack directly anymore, they've learned that looks bad. Instead, they express worry: "I'm just concerned about sustainability," or I hope you're not burning out chasing unrealistic goals. These sound supportive until you recognize the subtext. I need you to slow down because your pace exposes mine. I need you to doubt yourself because your certainty threatens my position. And once you see this pattern, you can't unsee it. The bottom line: high performance is inherently disruptive. It challenges established norms, questions accepted limitations, and forces organizations to reconsider who deserves opportunities. People benefiting from the status quo will always resist disruption, not because your work is flawed, but because your workforces change. And change means uncertainty about their stand-in, so they'll fight to keep you contained, all while claiming they want what's best for you. Don't believe them. Believe their patterns. And this brings us to the most powerful move in the game, one that historical winners used to dominate. How elite performers turned resistance into rocket fuel. Here's what separates legendary figures from forgotten ones. They didn't waste energy fighting attacks, they used attacks as data points. Winston Churchill faced constant political sabotage throughout his career. His response? Document the sources, understand the motivations, and adjust strategy accordingly. He didn't try to convince his critics, he made them irrelevant through results. That's not indifference. That's calculated dominance. The samurai code, particularly the concept of mushin, or no mind, teaches fighting without emotional attachment to outcomes. When attacked, a master samurai doesn't rage or panic, they observe, adapt, and execute. Applied to modern competition, this means, when someone undermines you, don't defend emotionally. Analyze tactically. What does this attack reveal about their position? What resources are they expending? Where are they vulnerable? Every attack is reconnaissance data if you're disciplined enough to extract it. Steve Jobs got fired from his own company. Most people would collapse under that humiliation. Instead, Jobs used the exile to build Next and acquire Pixar, returning to Apple with leverage nobody could ignore. The key insight: he didn't spend those years trying to prove his critics wrong through arguments. He spent them building undeniable value. When Apple desperately needed innovation, Jobs had all the cards. That's not revenge, that's strategic patience combined with relentless execution. There's a chess concept called zugzwang, position where any move your opponent makes weakens their position. High performers create zugzwang for their critics. Every attempt to diminish you forces them to reveal their hand. Every piece of advice designed to limit you exposes their strategic thinking. And once you understand their playbook, you can predict their moves 3 steps ahead. Meanwhile, they're reacting to you, which means you control the tempo. The ultimate power move: transform opposition into fuel. When someone doubts your capacity, use it as motivation to exceed their highest estimate. When someone blocks an opportunity, create a bigger one they can't control. When someone spreads rumors, let your work speak so loudly their whispers become irrelevant. This isn't about being petty, it's about being unstoppable. Because the only thing more satisfying than proving people wrong is making their opinion completely meaningless through sheer performance. Now, let's talk about implementation, the exact framework that turns this insight into action. Drop a comment. Unstoppable. If you've ever used someone's doubt as fuel to dominate, you already know this game. So tell me, do you play for validation or victory? If this resonated, hit that like button so more people see this truth. Se voc pudes identificar sabotadores antes que causam danos. Let's get practical. How do you distinguish between legitimate feedback and disguised sabotage? Military intelligence uses a 3-factor assessment: consistency, context, and consequence. Consistency: does this person repeatedly question your competence across different situations? Context: do their comments come when you're gaining momentum or visibility? Consequence: after interactions with them, do you feel empowered or diminished? If the pattern is consistent criticism during your wins that leaves you doubting yourself, that's not coaching. That's neutralization. Special forces operators are trained in something called threat assessment posture, the ability to identify hostile actors before engagement. The civilian equivalent: observe who consistently withholds information, forgets to include you in key discussions, or frames your successes as luck while framing your challenges as incompetence. These aren't accidents or personality clashes. They're calculated moves by people who recognize you as competition. And once you identify them, you adjust your operational security accordingly. Less information shared, more independent verification, zero dependence on their validation or support. The counterintuitive move: don't confront them. Confrontation gives them attention and opportunity to gaslight, to make you seem paranoid or difficult. Instead, root around them. Build relationships they can't block. Develop skills they can't diminish. Create results they can't ignore. Sun Tzu's principle: the supreme art of war is to subdue the enemy without fighting. In corporate terms, make yourself so valuable that their opposition becomes organizational noise. When decision makers recognize your impact, critics become irrelevant. Here's the final truth that nobody wants to accept: not everyone cheering for you wants you to win. Some people support you as long as you stay below them. The moment you rise to their level or beyond, the support transforms into subtle resistance. That's human nature in competitive systems. The winners don't waste time being hurt by this reality, they factor it into their strategy. They know who to trust with vulnerability and who to engage with at a professional distance. They build teams based on mutual benefit, not emotional comfort. So here's your takeaway: if you're moving forward and encountering resistance, congratulations, you're doing something that matters. If nobody opposes you, you're probably not disrupting anything significant. The absence of enemies doesn't mean you're universally loved, it might mean you're universally irrelevant. Choose your reality: comfortable obscurity or uncomfortable impact. Because the people who change the game always face resistance. And the ones who win, they expected it, prepared for it, and used it as confirmation they're on the right path. Comment below: impact. If you choose growth over comfort, disruption over acceptance, you're in the right place. What's your move? Blend in or stand out? Drop your answer. If this shifted your perspective, smash that like button, subscribe to this channel, and share this with someone who needs to hear it. Truth doesn't spread itself, it needs people brave enough to amplify it. Disclaimer: this content is for educational and motivational purposes. While we discuss competitive dynamics and strategic thinking, always maintain ethical standards and professionalism in your career and personal development.